All right, let's talk Thursday night football, and we don't have to drum up any intrigue this week. It's a big one. It's Dallas, it's Seattle. Love the NFL loves putting the Cowboys on back-to-back Thursdays. Obviously, they're always going to play on Thanksgiving, so why not just keep them on that schedule for another week? I guess it's nice. It gives you like a tent pole game to look forward to heading into the weekend. We don't have to pretend like some boring matchup between losing teams is entertaining. No, we got two playoff teams going at it on Thursday night, and the narrative is pretty obvious. This now begins the chance for the Cowboys to prove themselves as a member of the NFL's elite. You know the talking points. Dallas has won 6 of 8 by an average of 25 points per game. They're absolutely murdering people. They've rolled over the vast majority of their schedule. The obvious problem with that is that those 6 wins have come against teams that are a combined 20 and 48. They are beating up on the dregs of the NFL. Their last 3 opponents are all currently top 6 in the draft order. The 2 losses in that stretch, you remember, 32-point blowout at the hands of San Francisco up in the Bay, and that heartbreaker in Philly, 23-28, maybe a 3 combined inches away from getting a win, but they don't quite get the job done. They got to do it against somebody with a pulse. It starts tonight, and Cowboy fans, listen to me. Don't let them do this. Don't let them move the goalposts on you, okay? The Seahawks are a living, breathing NFL team. I'm not trying to convince anybody that they are the best in the league, but they are currently in the playoff field. They have beaten 2 teams that are above 500 right now, which is 2 more than Dallas has for the record. It was seen as a major statement across the league on Thursday night last week when San Francisco bludgeoned them. That was an impressive win for San Francisco. It's not going to be the biggest win that the Cowboys need this season, but this is not nothing. This is not a team that's going to pick at the top of the draft order. So, yes, this might not be the end all be all game for Dallas, but it is a significant step up in competition from what we've seen. Seahawks look about as healthy as what we've seen in the last couple weeks. Running back Kenneth Walker is doubtful to play, but it looks like Leonard Williams is going to play. Jamal Adams, maybe most importantly, Abe Lucas are all going to play. Lucas is their young, promising right tackle. Got hurt in week 1. They haven't had him all season. One of their biggest issues has been their offensive line. They should have both of their starting tackles back for this game. We'll get to that in a minute. So no, this doesn't validate the Cowboys as a Super Bowl participant. It doesn't validate Dak Prescott as an MVP candidate. But you have to take the first step before you can get to the destination, right? Like you're not done with the road trip until you get in the car and start moving. So the legacy games are waiting. It's all going to hinge on what Dallas does against Philadelphia a week after this. Buffalo and Miami are on the horizon. That is the meat of this thing. But they've won 13 straight at home. They've done it in dominant fashion. This is a chance to at least quiet the conversation about their legitimacy. This is a team that I'll say it one more time. This is a team that would be in the playoffs if the season ended right now. It matters more than what we've seen the last 3 weeks. This is the first step in solidifying the Cowboys' resume. Plenty entertaining on its own right, but despite what some of us talking heads would have you believe, it's not always all about the Cowboys. It's not. The Seahawks are a playoff team. Like this matters for them as well. You can feel their season slipping away if they're not careful. It's never going to be as loud as it is with a team like the Cowboys, but the Seahawks quietly, it hasn't been great against the top tier opposition, excuse me. They escaped in overtime against Detroit way back, and they did beat the PJ Walker Browns. That's their 2 wins against team above 500. But they got demolished by Baltimore just about a month ago, 37-3. And obviously, San Francisco just wiped them off like dirt on their shoes last week on Thanksgiving. And the schedule doesn't get easier. When they're done at Dallas, they got the rematch against the 49ers. That's on the road. You got a home game against Philly after that. Closer to the end of the season, you've got the Steelers, who are a playoff team. 4 of their last 6 opponents have a winning record, look likely to make the playoffs. They can't afford to wait for games against Tennessee and Arizona. If the Seahawks want to make the playoffs, it's got to start. It's got to start right now. If we don't see a heightened level of play, it's going to feel like a fever dream that the Seahawks were even a playoff contender at all. So, sure, plenty of pressure on Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, but plenty of pressure on Geno Smith and the Seahawks as well. I mentioned Geno on purpose. It, too much of the blame, too much of the credit. That's how we always say it. Geno was a Pro Bowler just a year ago. He's presently on pace for half as many touchdowns as he finished with last year. And part of that has just been the shockingly inconsistent passing game over the last month. I know he had the elbow injury that affected last week, but over his last 4 games, 3 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. DK Metcalf met with the Seattle media this week, and he did a wonderful job of pointing out Cowboys cornerback Deron Bland, with his 5 pick sixes, has more touchdowns than DK Metcalf this season. It's been frustrating to watch. What a big opportunity for them to try to turn it around. And I mentioned it. That's why this is my matchup to watch. I'm just curious to see how Seattle's protection holds up against the Dallas pass rush, because look, I do think Dak Prescott belongs in the MVP conversation, but Dallas's wins at home have been fueled in large part by their dominant defensive performances, whether it's just getting after the quarterback, whether it's Deron Bland scoring touchdowns. It's all worked in concert with each other to produce these 30 and 40 point wins. And it starts with their pass rush. You know the drill with Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, the rest of those guys, Dorrance Armstrong, Sam Williams, Oso Digizua. I could name them all. Parsons in particular, 71 total pressures, 11 and a half sacks on the year. DeMarcus Lawrence far behind him with 33 and 4, but this is one of the best duos in the league. They've led the charge all season long. And now Seattle looks like they're going to be at full strength at offensive tackle for the first time since week 1. They drafted both of these guys, Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas, last year. Very promising seasons. Cross has been back for a few weeks and has looked promising. This is the first we'll see Abe Lucas since they lost to the Rams all the way back in September. I'm not saying that they're going to shut these guys out. Very few people have, but it starts with giving Geno Smith time. It starts with not letting any sacks become strip sacks, or not letting any pressures become turnovers. Not Geno Smith having a guy in his face and throwing an ill-advised pass, and all of a sudden Deron Bland is celebrating in your end zone again. That's what it comes down to for me. And in particular, the battle over on the left side, Charles Cross, he was the top 10 pick for the Seahawks a year ago. Micah Parsons. Micah moves all over the place. We know that. But in general, it seems like if Micah Parsons is going to be on the edge, the Cowboys like for him to be on the right side. That's where Cross will be. Cross, 8 games this year, 20 total pressures allowed. Not all pro type of stuff, but this is a guy who is developing into looking like he was worth that pick, in my opinion. How do you deal with Micah Parsons? Can you limit him? Like I said, can you keep him from turning things into explosive plays, into big moments for the Dallas defense? I'm curious to see it. A lot of components to it, but I really think if you're at the bare minimum, Seattle, if you're going to play this game close and not let it turn into a beatdown, which is what we've seen most of the time, Cowboys 13 straight wins at home, the vast majority of them coming by 20, 23, 30, 35 points. If you're going to keep it from being that type of game, it's Charles Cross and Abe Lucas dealing with this pass rush. And from there, maybe we'll actually see the Cowboys play a normal game script if the Seahawks protection can hold up. That is why I think this one is so important. I got to say, I lean toward Dallas in this game. I don't think that's super shocking. They're favored by 9 points, which even knowing how well they've played and even knowing how rough it's looked for the Seahawks on offense, 9 points between 2 playoff games says a lot about what Las Vegas thinks of the Cowboys when they're playing at AT&T Stadium. Not going to quiet all of the doubters. Like I think it was Dak Prescott said, we haven't done shit. Night, love it. First of all, love the quote, Dak. Let it fly. But yeah, not going to quiet all of the doubts as of yet, but this would be a nice first step. And I do think the Cowboys are up to that.